time for another Coffee with Kilroy, or what I sometimes call beverage in a book. My beverage, well, I think you know what that is. It's coffee and it is wet. It's a rainy day. It's not super cold, but fall is here and winter is soon on its heels. This is World War I week, so my book today is going to deal with a World War I topic, and that is the Somme. This is a book by Peter Hart. It is the Somme, the darkest hours on the Western Front. I picked this up and read this a while back, so my memory might not be super fresh on this, but I thought since it's World War I week, let's take a look at it. So inside cover here, the definitive account of one of the bloodiest battles in world history, a military tragedy that would come to define a generation. As for it being the definitive account, this is the only book I have on the Somme, so it's my definitive account, and I found it very useful. As some of the things in the dust jacket here, it says, he gives a fresh approach to the Battle of the Somme, a compelling narrative tribute to the infamous tragedy, the futility of the war to end all wars. This dramatic retelling explores the true narrative of the conflict as experienced by those on the ground. Neither a chess match of clinical strategy nor a charned house for the helpless, but as a contest fought by the brave and often ruthless men in an attempt to create order out of bloody chaos of war. One of the things here is, he's pulled up, letters and diaries and, other material that might not have, it was around, but maybe not as used as a resource as much. So he's kind of went to some different and new resources in this book. And so the thing I like about it is it's giving it the perspective of the people who fought it, but he's also giving, there's a certain amount of political overview and strategy as well. As you can see here, these are the contents or the different chapters. You have the Rocky Road. That's kind of the setup for the Somme, and kind of talks a little bit about the political aspects of it. That the rush to try to find a quick solution by some of the politicians and strategists, and the futility of that. He kind of also puts it a little bit defense of Haig, the overall British commander. A lot of times he's considered, not as smart or made a lot of mistakes or kind of cold and calculating. And basically kind of comes to his defense in some aspects. He argues that even though he made a lot of mistakes, the broad thrust of Haig's strategy in 1916 was probably correct. Haig's way was excruciatingly painful, but it was the only realistic way at the time. As for all the soldiers who suffered so much, Hart contends that it's inane to adopt the morbid sentimentality of portraying the men who took part as helpless victims. On the contrary, many were actively looking forward to the moment when they could finally prove themselves as fully fledged warriors. This was Britain's first major battle on the continent, where they were not necessarily in a defensive position, and they lost the most in this. I think there was like over 280,000 casualties. They lost more than the French. Didn't lose as much as the Germans, of course, which I think was numbered anywhere from 400 to 600,000. This was a bloody, bloody battle. In fact, I think this might be the bloodiest battle that Britain or UK has faced. And this kind of holds a place similar to. I'm not going to speak for Britons, because what do I know, right? But some people have made the analogy of this kind of holds a similar place to Britain as like the Gettysburg might hold here in the U.S. as far as kind of being one of those somber and sacred moments in battles. As you see here in the contents, you have stuff, you have coverage of the armies and weapons, moving on up, and then you get into the battle itself. And again, he draws a lot of narratives from soldiers that fought in the battle, which I find, interesting. And he goes to some of the smaller scale aspects of the battle as well, through those narratives, and I like that. I think one of the things that Hart says here, he kind of sums up the Somme in just 5 words: the pity of it all. Politicians are portrayed as Machiavellian, but simultaneously weak. Generals are stupid. Soldiers are brave and helpless victims of war. Poets, victims and war poets. War poets are the latter-day saints made flesh. He takes a different perspective. Again, that's kind of the theme of my channel, right? Is different perspectives on the Battle of the Somme. He doesn't take necessarily the contemporary, the traditional, I guess, approach of the battle, the sacredness of the battle, and the soldiers were just pawns in a chess match. I mean, he kind of looks at it from the aspect of what was trying to be accomplished, what were the strategies, and that even though a lot of World War I battles seemed to be futile, that there was an actual, some strategy and some thought put into what they were trying to accomplish. Anyway, that's kind of what I remember. I mean, it's been a while, so I might be wrong. If you've read this, please feel free to put your comments in this down below. But I recommend this. There might be better books on the Somme, but this is the one I have. This is my rifle. But this is a book I have, and so this is the one I kind of used as a resource here. It's got maps in here. I like that. I like the reference to the action from time to time. As you can see, there's a lot of indentions of quotes and the like. I mean, he's pulling from officers and others that fought in the battle, and pulling out their notes and their relations, or their retelling of the conflict throughout this book, and kind of weaves it all together into not a completely dry and sterile narrative of the conflict. I mean, by bringing in the soldiers' context, you get a little bit more of a feel and flavor and emotion of the conflict, as opposed to just a straight dry retelling of it. So anyway, so that's it. I mean, it's a relatively long. It's almost 600 pages of altogether. So in that respect, it might be approaching the definitive retelling of the Somme, or at least a perspective on the Somme. So there you have it. It's got some images in here as well, so you can see here that, and then between the images and the maps, you get a little bit better sense of the conflict there. Of course, all the pictures are black and white. Let's see what we have here. Some more maps in here. And so anyway, that's what I thought I'd bring to you today with my coffee. I'm thinking of World War II this week. I try to do theme weeks from time to time, and put all my content together that kind of matches or contributes to or adds some insight into that theme. And so this week's World War I, and I'm up to the Somme. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Love to know your thoughts on this, or if there's better books out there on this, then let me know. Or if there's other books that you would recommend on World War I, feel free to put those down below, and I might have them, or I might get to them. They don't have to all be about the Somme. And I might try to cover those in another Coffee with Kilroy. This Coffee with Kilroy is a segment. I try to focus on paper products. I do books mostly, or war game books, or I started off with Avalon Hill catalogs, and I've done some Compass catalogs. When you think of World War I, or you think of game companies, you think of Compass. So a little bit of spoiler there for this week as well. Anyway, thank you all. I hope you're having a good one. I hope you're enjoying your coffee or your tea or whatever beverage you're drinking. Have a good one. Be safe. Thanks for watching.